Hi, I'm Julia in the writer's room. Today I have my cameraman husband, and we are going to talk about Christmas. Christmas memories, for one. Quickly, I'm going to read to you something I wrote that puts a little bit on perspective about family and memories. Do you hear what I hear? I hear that our Christmas presents only need to be our presents, to live in our hearts to each other, however far apart. So that was just a little brief free writing that I did about Christmas. I do love Christmas, as everyone knows. But today I thought I would ask Nicholas, my husband, a few questions about a memory or two. And one of them that really comes to mind first is the story he told me about the Philadelphia Eagles and the Santa Claus incident. Can you tell me what happened there in 1970?
No, this was like 1989 or 90. This is common knowledge. Not only in Philadelphia, but amongst all sports fans.
Really?
Yes, this is pretty common knowledge.
I mean, I heard about the battery incident, which I was like,
that is probably less known than the Santa Claus snowball booing incident.
Who were the Eagles playing that day?
I don't remember.
Was it on Christmas Day?
That's irrelevant.
Was it on Christmas Day?
It was around Christmas. I don't think it was Christmas Day.
So what could Santa, he was being a mouse.
Okay, the gist of it is this.
What
The gist, nothing. It's just
he was pelted with snowballs.
Their fans are mean. I don't know. There was a lot of drinking going on, and there was a snowstorm. So there's snow around the aisles and around the seats that couldn't be removed. So whatever snow was left, before the game started, Santa came out to, wish everyone Merry Christmas, put on a little show, and the fans just took it upon themselves to ball up some snowballs and pelt Santa with the snowballs for the game. This is the way they are, and
some tough fans.
And not only before he got pelted with snowballs, he was greeted to a chorus of boos from 60,000 people.
Oh my God.
This is Santa Claus. So that's why sports fans today, when talking about Philly fans, they boo Santa Claus. This is the kind of fans you got.
Did they pelt him with snowballs so much that he left the stadium?
Most likely.
Yeah.
I don't have it. I don't have a visual memory of it. I wasn't there. I was like 10 or 11. I was like 9 or 10 when it happened.
Can you tell me something?
But it went down in infamy. It's legendary.
It is
The
legendary.
snowball Santa booing Santa thing.
Some serious people from Philadelphia.
But let's just make something clear. This isn't Santa Claus. It's just some guy from South Philly in a Santa suit. So they took it upon.
Have you ever heard any other professional sports team doing something like that to their mascot of any type? I think Philly kind of takes the cake.
No, but I mean, I can see the same thing happening at Yankee Stadium.
Can you tell me an incident that maybe was the happiest Christmas time that you had growing up in Manayunk area
Philadelphia.
of Philadelphia that you remember?
Manayunk is a neighborhood in Philadelphia where I grew up. It's a blue-collar neighborhood, very white, blue-collar, very racist, homophobic,
we're being honest.
blue-collared. It's just blocks and blocks and blocks of row homes.
Wasn't that in the 80s though, in the 90s?
90s.
It's changed some now. Gentrification is
Gentrification started around the late 90s, where you start to see college kids moving in from the suburbs who wanted some of the city life.
What was the kind of traditions that you saw at Christmas time now growing up when you were a kid in Manayunk? Did you see
In my house?
in your house or even right around? What were people?
Everybody did the same thing, trees, presents, lights where they could be put.
Did people have parties a lot? And there's row homes. People would go to.
Well, my family, Christmas Eve was my favorite day of the year. when I was a kid. We would all, my grandparents lived right across the street from us, so we'd all saunter over there with our gifts. And
What was the tradition?
we would all sit at the kitchen table. My brothers, sisters, my mom, my stepfather, my grandparents, and my Uncle Bill. And the tradition was we would have shrimp, the kind that you peel.
Okay.
My grandma would put newspaper all over the kitchen table. We'd
Wow.
peel our shrimp, and my grandma used to make fondue.
Oh.
So we used to have
with
cheese fondue, and we'd cut up French bread into little cubes, put it on a skewer, and have our fondue. And then we'd eat, and it was the best time of
Did
the
you
year.
decorate the tree that night?
We would decorate the tree after eating. That was phase 2. And then the end of the night, my grandpa used to put on Christmas record albums back in those days. They
very
didn't
nice.
own CDs, so
So you spent Christmas.
Bing Crosby, old-fashioned
Oh, I
Christmas
love
music.
it.
So that would be going throughout the night, and we'd
then-
sit around after eating. We'd all sit around. There was no pressure. We'd all just talk, and everybody was happy. This was my mother's side of the family,
Yeah.
not my father's.
Can you tell me about going over to the Greek side of the
I'm
family?
getting there.
Okay.
Let me get there. So, in my mother's side of the family gatherings were pleasant and easy, and nobody argued, and nobody was in anyone's business, and there was no screaming. Here, it was just normal and pleasant.
Okay.
Nobody argued, nobody fought, nobody got drunk.
Well, take me over to, is it Queen Lane? Is that where it was? Or did you go to...
That's my father's side.
Is that where the Christmas parties were held the next day?
I would spend
the Greeks got
Christmas.
together?
Well, we got to make it clear that my parents were divorced, so I would spend Christmas Eve at my mother's side of the family, and then Christmas Day I would go over to my father's side, the Greek side.
Can you tell me about them? Did you have a lot of cousins?
It was huge.
What was their names?
Huge. My cousins.
Yeah, because they were all there, I'd imagine.
Well, my first cousins were Chris and Tim Sarapades. We were all around the same age, my
Yeah.
brother, me. And there would be, in the early days when I was a
Aunts,
kid,
uncles?
aunts, uncles, cousins, second cousins, people I didn't even know would show up.
What
And
kind of food did you have? Or did they do traditional Greek food for the most part?
for Christmas?
Yeah.
I think they would just do ham for Christmas, but there was always Greek food around, like tomates,
Was there
feta,
orzo?
olives. No, we didn't have orzo
No.
for Christmas.
What else?
It was just huge. There were just people
Did you have
everywhere.
Christmas music? No.
Maybe I don't recall.
So who
I don't-
did what? Was there football
There was too much
playing?
yelling.
A lot of yelling.
There was too much yelling to hear any music.
Ah.
But there were so many people there. You would see people sitting in one room eating their dinner. You would see people sitting in the stairwell eating. It was a huge house.
What kind of things did you and Matt and Chris and Tim do on Christmas? Like just for fun? If you were there all together in the house, is there anything particular that you guys would do?
At Christmas?
At the
I don't
Greek house?
know, just play. I don't know.
Ping pong?
No, there was no indoor ping pong.
Not
at
Christmas.
No, ping pong we'd have for Memorial Day or Memorial Day picnics. We would have parties outside and ping pong.
So Christmas was kind of quiet? Well, besides all the
No.
yelling? So it
It
wasn't
was not quiet. It was huge. It was huge, at least in the early days. And then when there was family,
Who did the cooking?
my grandma, my Aunt Mare, my grandmother, Aunt Mare,
Your uncles didn't cook at all?
they didn't do anything.
They didn't do anything.
Oh, George, my Uncle George would help. He loved to cook. He would help out, My father, no, he didn't
What
cook.
about Mike?
Mike.
No, your Uncle Mike didn't cook.
Well, he was living in
What about
Texas.
Gus?
Gus was great.
Yeah.
He didn't cook, but
Did
he
he like
was.
Christmas?
He loved everything. He loved every day of the year. He had the most positive outlook of life. He loved life, so he was never unhappy. My Uncle Mike before from Texas, he would show up. Living in Texas, he wasn't there every year. So he would come maybe once every 5 years. I don't know. He'd pop up.
What do you miss the most about Philadelphia now that you've been in Florida for a few years? Is there anything particular that you wish that I could see in Philly that you really loved?
having to do with Christmas or
Yeah,
everything?
Christmas and everything. What's the
Seeing
one-
my family for one, but it will never. Christmas when I was a kid was awesome, and then everyone started going their separate ways. Well, so it will never be that good again. You know, it's just smaller. No one can get. It's harder to get everyone together. You know, so it will never be that fun again as when you're a kid. Plus, when you're a kid, you get presents, and it's great.
Well, that's kind of about what I'm talking about.
Wait, let me
being
say,
present.
that's why Christmas to me is not such a big deal anymore, because I think it's a holiday for kids, and I don't know, I have a hard time getting that excited or sharing your enthusiasm
But I
for
love
Christmas.
Christmas. How do you
I
feel
know,
about
maybe
that?
it's starting to rub off on me,
Oh, I
but
hope
I have a hard time getting enthusiastic about Christmas. I just look at it as pressure to buy everyone gifts and blah blah blah.
But so much of it, the Christmas industry has really Christmas time has really turned into a cottage industry. This is like how much money
It's
can
just
we make?
commercialism,
Commercialism.
and it stinks.
So if we bring it back,
It stinks.
why we do it in the first place, religion aside, because we're not talking about
The whole
religion.
purpose of Christmas is lost. It's just turned into buying people presents.
I don't think so. I decorate the tree and play Christmas music, and
I don't
love it.
mean you.
I love it. I know, but it can't it spread to more people?
Sure,
Yeah.
sure, anything's possible.
Remind us of that we're here again, that we are still here, that we're not gone.
Well, let me just say another thing. Christmas in the Northeast, for me, as I got older, got worse and worse because, families separated and the cold. I didn't deal with the cold well, and I don't want to get dark or anything, but I used to get seasonal depression, and a lot of that, the holidays,
Impacted that?
yeah, and so I'm losing my train of thought.
No,
here.
it's fine. I'm glad.
But
Because many people.
so when the holidays,
You are not alone.
as I started to get into my 20s, holidays just became a drag to me. I just, because of the cold and
But it's not cold. I mean, today it's cold here in Florida.
Just-
We've been here
I don't
for
know.
years now.
I used to get seasonal depression, and depression used to creep in like clockwork every time the holidays would approach. So I don't miss that part of being in Philly, because being in Florida, Christmas is not the same, but it's always warm, and I like that.
You like that?
Yeah. Getting a little dark here.
Getting a little dark. And that's okay. That's okay. We're being real, and people know who we are.
All right. What else you
So
got?
friends and
Do you
family.
want to know? What else do you want to know?
Most-
At the end of the night on Christmas Eve, after everything was done, me and my brothers used to, we lived right across the street. Our house was across the street from my grandmother's house. So we used to carry hefty bags filled with gifts. That was the best part.
Wow.
Bringing the gifts across the street to put under our tree.
What about your sister? Was she too young?
Yeah, she didn't have to carry anything. She was younger. But that was the best part, carrying. So we used to have presents halfway up the
What kind of-
tree.
what were
Because
they?
there was 4 kids in our house.
Yeah.
So it was a blast. I loved Christmas. And we used to have stockings for everyone on the what do you call it?
Railing?
Yeah, on the railing. And they used to be packed with the coolest stuff. So the stockings was like almost the best part. So much cool stuff. Pencils and candies. And,
Toys? Star Wars stuff?
Not toys.
Star Wars. Must have been. Star
No,
Wars.
no. Anything Star Wars would be under the tree.
Oh.
But the stockings were filled with school stuff, colognes, and candies. Just so much cool stuff. They really did a good job, my mother and stepfather, of like treating us well at Christmas. And it was,
Do you think that maybe that's part of your seasonal depressive disorder, is the memories were so good, so happy, that it is a missing out on those memories, because it's not the same. Of course, we're all grown up now, adults, but is
No,
it because
I
of
don't-
kids? Do you think it's because
I don't think the lack of gifts and getting older has anything to do with it. I just think I was going through a hard time, and no, I don't know. I can't. It's a deep subject. I can't really.
Is there anything else? Maybe I missed.
You asked me.
I know. I'm trying to think. If there's anything else I might have missed about hearing about your Philly stories because I love them. They're really good and usually really funny too. What are the hills? Since Manayunk is a very hill town, what was it like to drive there in the wintertime?
Well, to people who don't know, my neighborhood is like it's all hills.
It's right on a river.
Steep hills of narrow, very narrow streets that never. The streets are so narrow and small, no one would bother to salt the streets. So it's pretty challenging to get your car up and down these icy.
Did you ever slide down them in your car?
You know I did. Yeah. When I first started driving, I had this big 1987 Cadillac. And first time I drove down a steep hill on icy streets. And yeah, it's pretty scary. I didn't know what to do. I panicked. The car is just sliding like a sled. And I did the stupidest thing I've ever done in my life. It's really embarrassing.
It's your first year driving.
My solution to stop this car sliding on ice was to open the door jar and put my skinny little ankle out on the street and try to stop the car.
Kind of like Fred Flintstone style,
and
right?
I'm like, what am I doing? So
did you end up crashing? Or
no, it just came to a slow stop at the very bottom of the hill.
Gee,
yeah,
that's fun.
Yeah, but I don't know how people deal with these streets. It's pretty bad.
I've driven on them with you. They're pretty narrow.
Yeah.
In the
ice.
Time,
yeah.
Parallel parking was not fun.
Mm-hmm. It's worse now because
There's
of
so many
gentrification.
cars. Yeah.
When I was a kid,
all the kids are gone. There's no more kids there. I couldn't believe it.
When I was a kid, there was a car, maybe 2 per household. Okay, and it was all kids, blue collar families with kids. And then by the late 90s, gentrification came in. My neighborhood somehow became this hip place to be.
What's there now? What kind of?
You've seen it.
Well, I know I've seen it, but
it started with one posh restaurant, and it was a domino effect on the main street. Main Street was nothing when I was a kid. There was a water ice stand and a thrift store. So then when I was 12, 1992, one posh restaurant opened, and it was like a domino effect. And this became the place to be. People from the suburbs would come for the day and just say, this is great, all these posh restaurants and bars and shops, clothing stores. And they would come to visit, and then it hit them. This would be a great place to live. So around 1998, 1999, you would see college kids take a house, a row home, and all of a sudden, instead of 1 car, there'd be 5.
So that's the car started.
Right? And then the next house would get rented by 5 more college kids. You'd have to have 5 more cars. So there's no more parking anymore. And little by little, and this caused a lot of heat between the people who'd been there for generations and these rich suburban
without
people
kids.
coming
They
in.
didn't have children.
Yeah.
They weren't having children.
Yeah, so this caused a lot of heat. There was some fights in the streets about, yuppies moving into our neighborhood. These are people who've been there for generations, like my family.
How long had your family been there? When did they? 18?
My great grandparents lived there in Manayunk.
And you lived in a house that they had.
And
owned.
that house stayed in our family. My great grandparents owned it. My great grandmother grew up there. Her parents, my great parents, owned it.
So 1850, 1840?
No.
Yeah, must have been about that. There was
Late
a boom there.
1800s. That house was in our family from the late 1800s to 2007. Because when my great grandparents died,
So over 100 years.
we moved into that house, and that's where I grew up.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's a mystery.
Yeah.
That's a
Long
mystery.
time. So I was a original younger.
younger.
I was an original younger. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, do you think that we've covered everything?
You asked me.
About
You're the
Christmas?
interviewer. Anything else? Do you want to go dark? Do you want to?
Well, I want to keep
Well,
it
how
as
about
light
to,
as
how about
possible
to be
'cause
continued?
Christmas-
To be
We
continued.
can continue some other time.
That's
This is about
so.
Christmas.
So those were my That was my Christmas year after year until, you know, you hit your teenage years and then you start getting socks and underwear for Christmas. and that's the way I think it should be. You know,
Socks
once
and
you hit
underwear?
16, 17, Christmas is for the kids. You get socks and underwear, maybe a nice shirt. And then it kind of dies off. For me. I don't know. But, yeah. Christmas was nice when I was a kid.
Well, thank you for telling
Thank you for having me
them about it.
on the
It's
writer's
nice-
room.
Yeah, and not behind the camera, but in front of it this time. Thanks
This
for
was not
listening.
easy for me to get in
I
front
know.
of the camera.
Yeah, this has been
Not
9 months in the
easy.
making for me to get him
Well.
from that side to over here. And I'm
So
really
can I
happy.
do whatever I want for the rest of the day? Did I earn my?
Oh, we got stuff to do.
Okay.
Well, with that, I'd like to wish you to think good thoughts and to say good words and to do good deeds.